Hello, and welcome to Toastmasters in the Community. I'm your host, Fran Elkison, and you'll note, for a change, we have three people at the head table this time around, and let me tell you who it is. 14 years ago, the three of us sat at this very table, and we did a test of a 30-minute take to see whether the CTV studio would give us a show. And they did. So we are in the middle of our 14th year. Sitting next to me is past District 46 Governor Tony Figueroa, who just came back from the Toastmasters International Convention. And I believe you said you're on your way to the Philippines again. You spend more time traveling from
in 3 weeks,
New
yes.
Jersey every 3 weeks?
No. In 3 weeks I'm leaving.
In 3 weeks, okay. Tony used to have an excuse that he was going home to visit his mom. I don't think he has that as an excuse anymore, but he's not giving us any information. So
My sister.
Oh, your sister. Oh, why didn't I think about that? Sure. And on my extreme right is Joan Marizio, who you see almost every month, who is our usual timer, and she's the club sergeant at arms, also the club VP membership, no limits. So what I'd like to do is just get the show started. The first show, I decided a couple of months ago to show that Toastmasters don't just make speeches. What else do we do? When my daughter was dating her husband many years ago, he saw some of my plaques around the house, and he came and he said, "Nancy, your mother must be a great salesperson." She said, "Why? She doesn't sell anything." He said, "Look at all the plaques she's got from Toastmasters. My daughter had a cow fit." She said, "He thought you were a salesperson." No. So I decided to let the world out there know that Toastmasters make speeches about many things. Some of them are our talents. And that is why we're going to be doing something there. I also wanted to tell people, quite a few people get in touch with me because my email and my phone number is at the end of the tape, and they tell me how much they enjoy our show. Our show is seen on Channel 34, Spectrum, and Fios every Saturday. Tonight, you'll be seeing the second show that we did last month. This first show is going to be seen the next 2 Saturdays, and the afternoon show we do will be seen the last 2 Saturdays, or the last Saturday and the first Saturday of the next month. But I find us on at 3 o'clock in the morning, 12 noon. We're on all the time. So what I've offered is any group on Staten Island who has an event coming up, get in touch with me, and I'll give it a spiel that so-and-so is. Most of you have heard the woman who runs the Esplanade for the seniors residential was on a few months ago and gave a beautiful overtake of that beautiful property in Seaview. We have people from the Temple of the Arts. We have all sorts of people. The head of the Staten Island Lighthouse Museum was on our show. So if if your organization is doing something, get in touch with me. We'll put it out there. It'll be shown on CTV, and you may do some more business through us just giving a little tip to the people out in the community. So we were talking about talents. I usually do my speech first so that I can get it out of the way, and then I can worry about my cohorts. So Rachel Weiss is my evaluator, and I'm doing the speech to show visual aids. My visual aid is over here, and as soon as I start to talk, not quite yet, Margarita Estrada is going to come up and unveil my painting. In 1976, I couldn't draw growing up. Couldn't draw at all. Couldn't paint either. Never bothered with it. 1976, the South Shore artist, one of their members, Stella Calories, was going to run a summer class on painting for beginners. My friend Shirley Whitty was in the group. We met in the hospital 50 years ago, having our daughters together, 2 days apart. And Shirley said, "Why don't you come? Stella's looking for beginners." And she talked me into it. And I went down, and I figured, all right, what can I lose? These are friends. Something happened in that class. She was so patient, and she didn't make fun of any of us. We got a piece of cardboard, whatever it was. She told us to partition the board, and then she told us what to do to outline the same picture of a wooded scene in all 4 squares, and it would come together when the charcoal disappeared under the paint. And I went home and I started to look for something that I could relate to. And one day, and I will ask Peter if he could show the picture of Fran on the winding road. And this has been hanging over my fireplace. Well, now we'll unveil it. Margarita, why don't you unveil this first? Oh, you don't have to tippy-tap. You could be on TV more than once. But this is the painting I did in a little bit after 1976. I did a couple of things that were garbage pail bait between then and now. But there's the painting next to my lighthouse. You'll see my lighthouse is usually on the show because my theme when I was District 46 governor was share the light, because we wanted to share the light with people who didn't realize that Toastmasters could answer a lot of different things. But that's the painting I did. Now, but I asked Peter to put the painting of me standing on the original path. I lived in the Wadsworth Hall Hotel right outside of Fort Wadsworth, and I hope Peter's going to say that he has that picture on there, because that's the one I wanted. And if he didn't, if somebody could bleep and say that that picture didn't get on the drive. All right, I guess it didn't, unfortunately. Okay, but you know what? After that, I started painting. I did a few paintings that you all know by now that Greg Trillo is no longer living in Tottenville, where I live. He is down in Florida. We talk frequently. And I asked him once if I could bring one of my paintings of a well. I took a picture of a well by the side of a road when my friend and I were going to Maryland many years ago. And something just caught my eye. And I brought that down to his house and he analyzed it. He was very polite. But he said, it isn't bad for someone who, I wasn't an artist, so I didn't try to be an artist. When you go into Greg's house, you know what an artist is like. And another time I took another painting and I brought it down. And again, he was very friendly, okay? This painting, I couldn't reach it. It was up over my fireplace for so many years that I figured by putting it on the tape, I would then send him the tape and ask him now he could tell me what he thinks of my path. In fact, one day I think I called it the Destiny Path, because the picture of me with the path, is that me with the path?
No.
Okay, there, no, that's, oh well. At any rate, I have the picture. I can show you the picture. It's on the film, at least. It's so good to be prepared, thoroughly prepared. All right. Here's the picture of me on the path. In 1957, it has that on the back of the page. I came to Staten Island in 1957, and I found this path.
Very nice.
Right out. It was an isolated path. Nobody was ever on it. I took a walk there 3 or 4 times a week, just thinking. And I think the North Shore Rail Line was down in the pits. But I never met anybody, and it was a very secluded path. But when I took the painting class, what happened was I wanted to paint that picture, but I couldn't find the picture, so I painted it from memory. And you see, this was a winding path. If the camera can take a close-up, this was a winding path, and my path in my picture didn't wind that much. But I'll tell you one little secret. Why it didn't wind? Toward the back over there, on the right-hand side, you'll see a little bit of dirt, because my sister-in-law seemed to like the idea of the path. So I put a little dirt path there, and I painted a little sequel to that painting, and I made a little side path off to the side so she could see the connection, and I gave it to her one Christmas, and it was a little painting like this. Painting was a lot of fun. Now I have cats, and you don't put up an easel in your house when you have cats, because they're very curious. They would jump on an easel. And the main reason I bought the easel in the first place was that I had a political gathering at my house, and I asked Greg Perillo if he would come, or would he lend me a painting to put on my fence? And he said, Perillo, don't hang on fences. Do you have an easel? And I said, no. He said, well, I said, but I'll get one if you'll let me borrow a painting. And that was the beginning of our friendship over 40 years ago. So that's my talent, and I've enjoyed it to the fullest. Thank you. That's it. Now we're going to move right along to our next talented person. And it was hard to choose talents, because everybody has a talent to do something. We've had people in the past. Mary Batchelor brought some of her crocheting here, you remember? Beautiful, beautiful crochet work. But you can make speeches about your hobbies and your loves. All right, so the second speaker is Ken Raftery. And Ken is doing speech number 5 in the basic manual, Your Body Speaks. And I guess Diane Vaverka is going to be his evaluator, because the original evaluator did not get here. And everybody has 6 minutes on this show. And his title is Ladies of the 80s. Let's all welcome Ken Raftery.
Thank you, Fran, fellow Toastmasters and viewers. Well, my talent is playing the piano. But one thing about playing an instrument, you kind of like to show off your talent a little bit. But sometimes it's not easy to find an audience, plus a piano is not a portable instrument. But one day I had a great idea. I filmed myself playing the piano, and I posted the video on Facebook. But as the weeks went on, I started to notice something. Some of my Facebook friends would post something like, late for work again, 25 likes and 15 comments. I would post, here I am playing CCR's Bad Moon Rising, and I would get about 1 like. But I said, don't take it personally. Maybe someone might see that and say, well, I don't personally like that song, why should I watch it? Or a younger person might say, I never even heard that song. So I had a great idea. I recorded myself and I said, could someone name this tune? With the hook of, you'd want to watch it because who knows, maybe I'm playing your all-time favorite song. So it became like a popular thing. A lot of my friends really enjoyed it. But I started to realize it's only fun if the songs are challenging. Oh, you know Sweet Caroline, New York, New York, or Piano Man? Well, most 8-year-olds know them too. So let's see. One time I said, can anyone tell me what oldie song starts with the following melody? Do, 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 do. Within a minute, Liz, one of my Facebook friends, correctly identified it as the song Hitching a Ride, late 60s. One day I watched a film and I found the theme online. I said, can anyone tell me which movie starts with the lead actress humming this melody? Da 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 da. One of my Facebook friends, Victoria, within a minute said, Rosemary's Baby. She's correct. She had watched the movie about a week prior. But I realized at a certain point I was back to square one. My videos really weren't getting much attention. I think because people said the guy uses songs that are way too difficult. So I came up with a great idea. I said, I'm going to have the first ever Name That Tune tournament. And kind of like Jeopardy, I'm even telling you the category, Ladies of the 80s. And the songs are going to go in increasing order of difficulty. That way it gives me an excuse to use some easier songs that I wouldn't normally use. And we're going to ultimately crown a champion. So I was thinking it'd be fun if I showed you some of my videos now, but please, in my classroom, we don't yell out, so please wait until the song is over and identify this classic 80s song. Well, based on the smile in her face, I think Joan knows it.
Hit me with your best shot.
Correct. Hit Me With Your Best Shot by Pat Benatar. All right, so far Joan has qualified. She must sit out this round, but does anyone else know this classic 80s song? Boy, everyone knew that one. And I don't have much time, but I'm going to play one more because I love this song. All right, so does anyone know that one? No. No one does? How Will I Know by Whitney Houston. So I hope to see some. You could friend me on Facebook if you want to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ken. I'm moving right. Oh, Joan, you're next. Do you have enough space there, or should Tony go under the table?
I just don't trust the water near me.
All right,
I'm very
Tony, why don't
clumsy.
you get rid of your water?
Thank you.
Put it up over here. Okay. All right, our next speaker is Joan Marizio, who is doing speaking to inform, the advanced manual, speech number 2, resources for informing. And Diane Varoka is her evaluator, and Joan's title is Calligraphy is a Special Art. Let's all welcome Joan Marizio.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, I started in art a long time ago, and thanks to the New York Public Library, that was my teacher, I took out a book on calligraphy. I saw some signs that I really admired, and I said, I've never seen that kind of signage before. Never saw that type of a font. It was something pretty new back then, way back in the dark ages when I started. And I took the book out, and I learned, and I learned, and I learned, and I learned. And you do evolve. You see your first work, and you laugh at it when you see it 10 years later. So I didn't bring any of that. But what was nice about it was it actually led to jobs. I had envelopes that I worked on. I had award certificates that I filled out for various charities. That was my free work that I did. And a whole lot of other fun in between. Things that I did for Toastmasters that they actually paid me for, because I was reasonable. But it's not as hard as it looks. It's an art, yes, but it's something like handwriting. If you keep working at it and you keep practicing at it, you will get better. So what I'd like to do is actually, I have my little nameplate here, Joan Marizio, calligrapher and artist. And you cannot see the tiny word. It says calligrapher and escape artist, because I didn't think of myself as much of an artist. And then on the other side, I put Joan. And then in smaller letters, I put Joan from the Twilight Zone, because it's so easy to remember my first name then. But I remember work I did for Fran, and this was one of the paid jobs, creating the momentum. And that was a Fran when she was a DTM 8, if you can remember that far back. June 2003 in Baltimore, Maryland. But this was fantastic work to do. Fran is curious to see what in the world's going on, so I'm going to let her have that. I also had the opportunity to do an HPL in Fran's residence, and I taught people calligraphy. And the only one that really ever complained about that was Fran, because she wasn't getting the knack of it. But it's like anything else, though. She's practiced many years at Toastmasters, and look how perfect she is now. So if she practiced this even 1/10 as much as she practiced speaking, I'm sure you could become an expert. I'm still practicing my speaking, that's why I'm messing up. But what I'd like to do is show you the simple basics of calligraphy. And it's all about how to keep the pen at a certain angle. I'm going to do this on purpose so people get the 45-degree angle look. And it'll just show you it's not as hard as it looks, because that's exactly what I found out from the book that I read, and everything is based on that. This pen nib is like a chisel edge. God bless whomever sneezed. And you just keep it at that edge, and you keep it on the slant that it's on, and this is how you form your letters. Of course, I should put the backing behind it so I get the next letter perfect. But anyway, we'll take the letter D. It starts at the 45, and it goes down, 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 And as long as you keep at 45, the letter comes out pretty near perfect. So this is the whole secret in it. And then when you become a little better at it, better adept at doing your cool thing, you can just add a little dimension to the letter. And it's with a smaller nib. It's still at a 45-degree angle. And it's always the 45 degree. That's all you have to remember in this. You don't have to know about fractions. It's all about getting the nib down on the paper flat, just like that, and just dragging it across. C, A, F. And then what happens is you get bored of one alphabet, so you start doing others. And the person that has my evaluation book has it in, I'm going to try it here, but I don't think it's going to work too well, but I'll try because I'm finding I'm not comfortable with the backing. But what I'd like to do is show you some Old English. And this is the capital C. It's always at that 45-degree angle. It goes around like that, it goes, dips down like that, and you just keep staying at the 45-degree angle. And then if you really want to get fancy, you put that down there like that, and a little swirl, but it's always 45. No matter what alphabet you do in this, there's round hand, there's Carolinian, which is another beautiful font, I will call it. And then there's so many things you could work with. I've worked with board, I've worked with paper, I've worked on labels, and I've done all sorts of things. What I would like to say is I just started on working on a new medium, and that is something called wallpaper. You know, they throw all these books out when they're outdated, when the style becomes not something that's bought a whole lot anymore. People are not choosing the same pattern. They put new patterns in and test them. And this happens to be a beautiful daisy pattern. And when you're through with that, so you could see that it's really wallpaper, you could actually practice on this side and do the real thing on the other side. So I've got all kinds of wallpapers, and to make it really super easy, I brought something that's already lined. And you can see it was torn out of the panel, because it's a big, thick panel. And just very quickly, because I just saw the light go on, don't want to go over time, very quickly show you. You can work on anything. Here's that 45-degree angle, and this is the lettering. Always at a 45-degree angle. And my time is so free that if somebody would like a free lesson, why not? The best things in life are free. I would love to teach other people this art. And I'd like to say, if you do handwriting is so important because there's two parts of your brain you do not use unless you do handwriting. Stop printing and start using your handwriting. Start sending people notes because you'll be using that part of your brain that's not getting the practice it needs. But anyway, anything can be used as scrap paper. So practice. Get the book out of the library like I did. And there's many books on it now. Fellow Toastmasters.
Thank you very much, Joan. Thank you. And now our next speaker is Margarita Estrada, who just at our last meeting announced that she just achieved her Distinguished Toastmaster level. So we're very, very proud of you. And Margarita has joined our team with our club, and she's going to get us on social media, whatever she wants to do. I don't understand it at all, and my son said, you will find somebody who can do it for you. I can always find somebody who can do these things for me. But Margarita, I appreciate you joining our crew as whatever it is you're going to do to get us out there. See if we can build up membership in all the clubs in our district. Okay, so Margarita, you're doing speech number 2 from the Interpretive Reading Advanced Manual. And the topic for this is interpreting poetry. You again have 6 minutes. Sue Brooks, our audio tech in the control room, DTM2, is going to evaluate your speech, and the title is Legacy-Translated. Let's all welcome Margarita Estrada.
Good morning to my fellow Toastmasters here at the studio and you out there. I will be reading this poem entitled Legacy in Spanish and in English. I hope you enjoy it. Cuando era joven, pensé que la vejez estaba muy lejos. Miraba a la gente mientras nos cruzábamos en el camino. La vejez estaba tan lejos en la trayectoria de mi vida. Parecía que el camino estaría lleno de conflictos. When I was young, I thought old age was far, far away. I looked at people as we passed each other along the way. Old age was so far down the road of my life. It seemed that path for me could be full of strife. ¿Qué se suponía que debía hacer para validar mi vida? ¿Alguien me explicaría el propósito de mi vida? ¿Quién me mostraría el camino? O quizás tendría que encontrarlo por mi cuenta. What was I supposed to do to validate my life? Would someone explain the purpose of my life to me? Who would show me the way? Or did I have to find it on my own? Quizás debiera vivir cada momento como si fuese el último día. Con ese pensamiento me propuse enriquecer mi mente, mejorar mi corazón y abrazar a los demás que conocía a lo largo de mi vida. ¿Será este el camino para mí? Perhaps I should live each day as if it were my last. With that thought, I set out to enrich my mind, enhance my heart, and embrace others I met along life's way. Would this be the way for me? Ahora que me estoy acercando al final del camino que se me propuso, hace tanto tiempo me pregunto, ¿he hecho lo que se suponía debiera hacer? ¿Logré algo para cambiar el mundo? Tal vez ese no fue el plan que el destino propuso para mí. Now that I am nearing the end of my road that was set out for me so long, long ago, I wonder, have I done what I was supposed to do? Did I accomplish anything that changed the world? Perhaps that was not the plan that was set out for me. Debo reflexionar ahora. ¿Sobre qué? No estoy segura. Seguiré pensando en el legado al mundo y espero tener tiempo para completar lo que mi Dios me ha propuesto, establecido para mí. Hasta entonces, tengan paciencia conmigo. Envejecer es un regalo y todavía tengo mucho que hacer antes de irme. I must reflect on what I'm not sure. I'll keep thinking about my legacy to the world and hope that I have time to complete what my God has set out for me. Until then, have patience with me. Growing old is a gift, and I still have things to do before I leave. The author, Fran Okeson.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Just to let the audience know, because I did read it on the show last month, Margarita came up and sat. Would someone please, from the crew, put a chair in front of the lectern for George? Unless you can.
It's okay.
I don't know if you could stand there, because I forgot to tell him to give you a lavalier mic.
Oh,
Rachel, can you help at all while I just tell about...
okay.
Rachel, where are you?
Yes.
Can you help over there? I forgot
I'm
to
okay.
ask to get a chair in front,
Oh.
but he also needs a mic. Can he take that
This
mic
is-
off the lectern?
It's fine.
You're
It's
gonna be
fine.
all right?
Sure, I'm fine.
All right,
Thanks.
okay. All right, so let me just explain. Margarita came up to me at the end of the last show, and she said, Fran, I liked your poem. She was very, very gracious about it. Do I have your permission to read it to my Espanol Toastmasters Club in New Jersey? And I was completely flabbergasted. And I said, you can do whatever you want with it. And she said, I'd like to read it to them in Spanish. And I said, I'd like to hear it in Spanish. So she started to read it. It was so much better than what I thought, whatever. And I told her she could do it. Margarita, That was a wonderful, wonderful rendition, and I do appreciate your thoughts. And now you're part of my crew, and you have to get us out to the social media world that I really don't have time to get involved with. Now, George, I put you at the bottom because I'm anxious for this. George usually, this is George Hopkins. Just about everybody on Staten Island knows George Hopkins. He usually sits up front with me whenever he's showing us a new thriller. And he scared the bedoozes out of me when he sent me the notice that he just published his, what, 7th, I think, George?
Yes,
correct?
it is, yes.
7th, and I have them all. And I'm going to show this because, Peter, now this I gave you to put on the, I usually carry the pictures with me so I can track. Please put up the cover of George's book, and then we'll let George read the 6 minutes of it. I'd like to have that picture put up, please. The name of the book is The Butcher of Staten Island. And George keeps everything close to heart. And when I saw this cover, it sort of frightened me a little bit, and I figured, good Lord, look at this. And the good thing about George Hopkins, when he writes one of his novels, they're all thrillers. And George has 2 characters, and they're half-brothers, and one is a police detective at the 123rd Precinct, which is down the street from my house. So I'm every time he has to leave the station and come past Amboy Road, I figure, police car could be in your next book. And then the other one is a Jesuit priest who helps you in the troubles that you 2 half-brothers get into. But there's the book. They didn't put the picture up yet?
No, it's okay. It's okay. Here it is. Here it is.
Okay, it's not available. I'm very sorry. You'll have to write another novel, George, so
Okay.
that we can make sure it gets on the tape.
Thanks, Frank.
Okay, I know that will help. So George Hopkins is doing number 6 in the basic manual, Vocal Variety. Kevin Thompson is your evaluator, and of course the title is the book title, The Staten Island Butcher. Let's all welcome our own local author, George Hopkins.
Thank you. Thank you. Here it is. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to read a passage from the book. Okay. Here it is. Gretchen Leone left the Waterview restaurant at closing. It had been a long day. Kathy Flynn called in sick, and Gretchen worked a double shift. A cold, steady rain chilled her as she left the restaurant. Now she regretted walking from Randall Manor to work. It was only a couple of miles away. At the time, it seemed like a good idea. She wanted to shed a few pounds, and walking was good exercise. But work and weather turned against her. She was tired, but the tips had been good, and she wanted to share the news that she had met her old English teacher, Mr. Bennis, and the rumors were true. He really was a priest. She had texted her boyfriend and her best friends about Mr. Bennis and how she wanted to share the news with her grandmother. She stepped in a deep puddle crossing Snug Harbor Road and cursed, looking down at her new brown suede shoes. They were ruined. She recalled her grandmother's familiar saying, "Look on the bright side, dear. Never ask if your cup is half full or half empty. Be grateful you have a cup. No matter how bad things seem, there is a blessing in there somewhere. The goal is to find it." Gretchen looked down at her soaked feet. Maybe now I'll get a good excuse for that pair of black leather boots I wanted to buy. Her grandmother was the eternal optimist. When her mother and her father divorced, her grandmother encouraged both her mother and her to think positively. "You're both better off without him," she insisted. "Every cloud has a silver lining. You just have to go through the clouds to find it." When her mother died in a car crash on the Staten Island Expressway from a drunk, unlicensed driver, Gretchen's grandmother said, "It's God's will. Your mother is in a better place now. She is at peace. God called her home, and we'll see her again in the next world." Gretchen did not know where her grandmother found the strength, the courage, and faith. She was always there for her. One thing she did know was her grandmother was a survivor. When Nana's own mother died of uterine cancer in Georgia, she left her alcoholic, abusive father and worked her way to New York to build a new life. Gretchen imagined how difficult it must have been for her. Where her grandmother found her faith and determination, she did not know. She smiled again, thinking about telling her about Father Bennis. She thought her grandmother would like the priest. Gretchen wrapped her arms around her chest and shivered in the rain. She put her head down and quickened her pace. Amid the downpour of rain, She had the nagging feeling she was forgetting something. It was like an itch that came and went. She still had that term paper to write for the sociology class. Thoughts raced through her head like a flock of frightened sparrows. At first it started as a vague feeling, and she dismissed it. As the wind increased, however, the feeling increased. She felt someone was following her. She stopped at the corner of Kissel Avenue and Walnut Street and turned. The street was empty. She walked faster. It was late and the night was cold, wet, and dark. There was no one else on the street. She recalled reading a headline in the Staten Island Advance about a missing girl named Sophia and about the police finding parts of the girl's body in Martling's Pond, which was only a little over a mile away. Who would do something like that? Her grandmother often said there were a lot of sick people in the world today. Gretchen wondered why. Were the numbers of crazies in the world increasing, or were they always there, hiding just beneath the headlines? She wiped the rain from her eyes, and the feeling of being followed persisted. She could hear her grandmother's voice warning her about watching horror movies at night. An overactive imagination, dear, can get you in trouble. She smiled again. Mr. Bennis once wrote on one of her compositions, "Use your imagination more." He should meet her grandmother, she thought. And then she heard it. It was a car slowing up alongside of her. She walked faster. The car followed her. She was about to start running when the car's window opened and a voice called out, "Gretchen, how would you like a ride?" She paused. "It's a miserable night. I can give you a lift. I'm going your way." She recognized the voice, but she couldn't see into the car. "Come on, sweetheart. You're getting soaked. Let me ride you home. You'll catch your death of cold." It was a phrase her grandmother would have used. The voice was familiar, but she could not place it. He knew her name. Why not? As she ducked her head getting into the car, she recalled her grandmother's stern advice, never get into the car of a stranger. But as the door locks clicked down and she recognized the voice of the stranger, it was too late. Okay. That's just one chapter. Okay. All right.
George,
Okay.
Pittsville Avenue is the other end of my block. Do you know that?
Oh, no, I
I'm at
did.
Amboy and Chelsea, and the other end of Chelsea is Pittsville Avenue. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're quite welcome. Okay, thank you.
Oh, I want to read the book now, even more than ever. Thank you very much, George. And a lovely reading, too. Wonderful, thank you. Can't wait to get my hands on it, I'll tell you. All right. Thank you for getting up so I know where I am. All right, Rachel, you're evaluating my speech of A New Experience. Rachel Weiss.
Thank you, Madam Producer, TV audience, and guests. Fran's speech focused on visual aids, and we have a beautiful painting that she's done. That visual aid was unveiled so that we all were able to see it at the same time, those here in the studio as well as you at home. The way that she presented it, the way that she built up for it, really helped us anticipate what it was that she was revealing. The next visual aid she used, well, we should have had a little more practice in front of the camera because, unfortunately, she started to look like Kilroy. All we saw was her eyes and the black and white photo below. And then we lost her completely. So in the future, Fran, I'd suggest that we may do a little bit of on-camera practice. Maybe not with what you want to reveal, but at least with a demo of something so that we can make sure that it's to the correct side so we can see your face. Because we want to be able to hear you, we want to be able to see you. Overall, it was appropriate visual aids. They were well transitioned between one and the other. And I really appreciated the story behind the painting. Thank you.
Rachel, thank you so much. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think we do need some practice. I should have cut a little hole right in the center and stuck my nose through the little hole to let them know I was behind the picture. Now, Diane Vervoka, oh, you're up there already. Oh, it's nice when people jump up there and I don't have to read this. Diane Vervuka, a member of Richmond County Toastmasters, is going to evaluate Ken's musical expertise. Welcome, Diane.
Thank you, Fran. Hello, everybody out there and everybody in the studio. I am evaluating Ken's speech, which was called "Ladies of the 80s," rather, and it was in the topic "Your Body Speaks." I kind of feel that this podium limits Your Body Speaks speeches, but he did very, very well with demonstrating how good his music is and having the video with his fingers. I guess his body was speaking, his fingers were speaking a lot. And it was a wonderful topic. The presentation was excellent. The gestures on the tape and whatever gestures he was able to make here without being able to run around were wonderful. He made good eye contact, and his facial expressions were marvelous. He has this sort of hangdog sort of a look to him. It's like, please like my music. It was so cute. It was really cute.
He does, though. Yeah.
So it was a really wonderful speech. Thank you, Ken.
That's the way Ken always is. Always looking for that little special treat. Diane, I didn't even realize that you were evaluating.
I'm not moving, so we have no transition time here.
But thank you so much for filling in. I don't know what happened to
problem.
Jane, but she'll apologize, but thank you.
When everybody's ready. I am now evaluating Joan's speech called Calligraphy. This is from it's called Resources for Informing. And it certainly was informative speech about calligraphy. I haven't done calligraphy since I was in college, and I remember being middlingly good at it, not excellent. It was one of the things that you kind of feel that you have to do. You have to do something. It was a big deal for a while when I went to college, but we won't say when that was. It was an interesting speech. I think that everyone was interested in learning about it. There was a lot of demonstration. I loved the way she tried to use it would have been better if you came with something hard to do your demonstration on. But it was a wonderful demonstration. I think that it was relevant to the audience, and she's obviously very, very knowledgeable about this topic. I would love to see you appear and do a class on calligraphy, and you might try Makerspace or Art Lab on Staten Island. They do those things all the time. They do applied arts at Art Lab, and Makerspace will do just about anything. So you could check those out, because I think that when people, things come around and go around, and I think it's time for calligraphy again. And you're obviously very, very knowledgeable about your topic. Thank you. Thank you, Joan. It was an excellent speech.
Thank you very, very much, Diane. I appreciate you filling in. And now we'll have Sue Brooks. We do let people out of the control room occasionally. And Sue Brooks, DTM2, is going to evaluate Margarita Estrada's rendition of Legacy. She's there. She's coming in. Thank you, Diane.
Madam Toastmaster,
Boy, do I need my
studio
eye doctor.
audience, and members and guests at home. It was a pleasure to evaluate Margarita Estrada's speech, interpreting poetry. It was wonderful to hear the languages, both English and Spanish. It was wonderful to hear Fran's poem. Margarita excelled in 3 particular areas. I liked the pacing, the cadence, and Margarita's expressiveness. Margarita has a beautiful smile, and Margarita used her hand gestures so beautifully. One of the things I would have loved to have seen to enhance the presentation is if Margarita had placed the paper on the lectern so she could use both of her hands. Margarita, you have a beautiful sense of gestures, and using both hands would have enhanced the presentation significantly. The other thing, I noticed you were looking up at the monitor instead of directly at the camera. So with a little bit more practice, I think it would be a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Sue. Thank you. Okay. And now we have Kevin Thompson coming to evaluate George's rendition of his Staten Island Butcher. Hello, Kevin.
Fran, fellow Toastmasters, studio audience, but most of all, George, what you all experienced was a master storyteller and marketer. Let me explain to you why. So, in just a few short minutes, George peeled back the onion on this character and developed her to a point where you felt that you knew her. He gave you a family background. He added some things that you might have even heard as a child growing up that your parents would have said to draw you into that character to make you like her. He established locations here on Staten Island and particular things about Staten Island that if you were a Staten Islander, you would recognize yourself. Different streets, the Staten Island Advance, and then the actual little things about the character. Stepping into the puddle, the shoes, and instead of having the shoes, getting the boots. And just like any good soap opera, he took you right up to Friday and dropped you. You gotta buy the book to figure out what happened next. Massively done. And I would like to tell you what I thought that person was in the car. Remember, she talked about the priest and the relationship with her mother and the mother dying and the grandmother and being religious. I think it might be that priest that she was going to see in the car. In the car. And the priest might be the Staten Island butcher. Fellow Toastmasters.
Wow. Thank you very much. Wow, that's a cliffhanger. Cliffhanger. Okay. Fran, what are you doing up?
Table topic, Cindy's not here.
What?
Rachel told me to come.
Who?
Cindy's not here.
Don't everybody talk. What?
Cindy's not here. Rachel told me to do table topics.
Okay, well, I'm just turning the page. Okay, well, that's fine.
I could stay?
Yeah, well, I thought you thought it was the beginning of the second show this
No,
afternoon.
no.
Hey, people, don't surprise me unless you tell me. We need a tube that comes from crew members right to my left ear. Okay, yes, it's time for table topics now, thank you. That's fine. I have no problem with you coming all the way from Douglaston, Queens, over here. And we did say you were supposed to be on the show last month, and you couldn't come because of the deluge we had. Peter and I were stuck out in the car for over half an hour until we could, because I said to him, don't forget to bring my raincoat. He said, you don't need it, the sun's out. We were halfway here when we needed it. All right, yes, so I just realized that Cindy didn't show up, so our past district governor is gone. Now let me see if this is something you can answer. It might have been personal for Cindy Wilson. Oh, all right, yeah, this is a unanimous one. Fern Rashkova, hello.
Hello.
And you promised you'd come, no matter if it rains or snows.
I was going to stay in a hotel. I was coming.
Yeah, well, we have a good doghouse. All right, if you could take 3 things with you on a vacation to a secluded island, what would you take? Fern Rashkova.
Fran, fellow Toastmasters and viewing audience, I have to have my music. So I am a big shot now. I have an iPod. I would take the iPod, and in case that went bad, I would take my CD player, which I know is antiquated, but I don't really care. I live in the past anyway. And I would take my phone and a charger. That's really 4, because I have to have something to do, so I play my video games. That's what I would take to a deserted island.
Just to let people know, you're in Toastmasters 8 years longer than I. And I'm very upset. I thought I'd be the oldest one in Toastmasters.
38 years.
I know.
I was 10 when I joined. Ha ha.
What, I know I have the book at home with everybody's name in it. What month did you join?
July.
Oh, July.
Like July 1st to 2nd, 1980.
Okay, yeah. Because next month is my 30th.
Yeah.
But I saw you, the only one in my club that's longer than I am.
Yep.
I said, oh, well, that's all right. You were a well-known figure in the district when I came in. Anyhow, and thank you for always taking this club's ballots to the International Convention for us. We do appreciate leaving that job in your capable hands. She always calls and she says, "There's no limits, and the other club's going to give me the ballots to take to the convention." I said, "Always, always." Anyway. Ah, you're here. Who's there? Who's doing timing?
Ken.
Oh, Ken. Oh, good. Thank you, Ken. People don't know that beyond this circle of light the room is black back there. All right, Lucy. Oh, yeah. This is a good, I sit there, I like to make up the questions, although a woman I met at the poetry contest, the Cask Poetry Contest, writes me and sends me her poems all the time. And when she saw Table Topics, she watches our show all the time, she sent me a whole page of questions. I'm not on the clock yet, so don't do it. But she calls them pillow talk. So I figure, okay, it's Table Topics. Lucy, now her answer will start. If you prepared your favorite meal for 6 of your best friends, what would you serve? Lucy Kahn.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster, and viewing audience, if I want to prefer to get my guests for food, right? You're talking about like the dinner. I prefer to get and call up the Chinese restaurant. I don't like to cook. I want my guests to enjoy a nice meal. So I want to call up Chinese restaurant in New York and then ask them for a Peking duck, Chinese noodles, and all those other stuff that they really like brown rice and everything. This way, when my guest comes, they enjoy it. They have a nice Chinese dishes and everything, and I don't have to cook. I don't have to wash dishes and everything, and it would be nice for them and enjoying everything.
Thank you very much, Lucy. Is there someone in the back who came and did not have anything to do on this show? Raise your hand and say something. Kevin? You haven't done it? You have. Well, I'm going to ask Tony his question, and someone who is not up at the screen, please stand up. Tony, I've got your question here. I covered it so you wouldn't see it ahead of time. Of course you can stay here.
All right.
Okay, Tony Figueroa, if you could remake your life, what would you change? Past District Governor of 46, Tony Figueroa.
Fellow Toastmasters and Fran, this is going to be serious.
Well, you have a minute and a half.
If I can remake my life, what would it be? I probably wouldn't be here. I probably would be farming out somewhere in the Philippines, enjoying it. Because that was originally what I wanted to be, a farmer. Mm-hmm. It's just that I had a big fight with my father at that time because he didn't want me to be a farmer. He said if I wanted to be a farmer, I didn't have to go to college. So, since he was paying the bill, so I followed him. And here I am, Toastmaster in New York and New Jersey. And believe it or not, enjoying it. Fellow Toastmasters.
You should. We're great people, we Toastmasters.
Yes.
And you're a very international Toastmaster, and we all look up to you. And so I appreciate you coming back 14 years ago, 14 and a half years ago. The three of us are sitting here wondering, will CTV want us to do a show? And when they said yes, we got very excited.
The very
about
first show.
I see Margarita up there. All right, Margarita, you're taking Jane's spot again? Okay. What was one decision you made in the past that you ended up regretting? Margarita Estrada.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, one decision that I made that I ended up regretting was getting married. However, I made up for it when I got divorced.
Gives you on back over.
It's the truth. My mother and my father and my friends told me, he is not the right person for you. Did I pay attention? No, I was in love. I had hope that I could change the person. Guess what? It didn't work, and it ended. But after I got divorced, I ended up becoming a better person, more enriching. People came into my life, including Toastmasters and Espanol, and I ended up, guess what? In front of you, speaking to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Margarita. Appreciate it. All right, just one little other piece of business. We only have a couple of minutes. I wanted to show you something. When we started our club 20 years ago in September, our charter date was September 9th, but many years ago, Toastmasters put everybody on a first of a month, so our official now start date is September 1st. But the Bedell Pizzle Funeral Home that's just down the street from my house on Amboy Road, Eric Scow was a member of our Toastmasters clubs, and he made this up without even telling me. It was a prayer card, like if you go to a funeral parlor, you will see prayer cards like this. And I made a copy of it to read today because it was very moving. I made it into a little thing that I probably will frame one of these days. Peter's probably saying another hole in the wall, but that's all right. They're my walls. So this I thought was wonderful. And the Bedell Funeral Home was one of our benefactors for many years. 3 banks on Staten Island paid dues for our disabled people because No Limits Toastmasters, I chartered that because I was an adult foster home and my people couldn't afford dues. And 3 banks helped us out by paying dues. Bedell Funeral, Chrysler Mansion, we had a lot of help in the beginning. Let me just read this and then we will be taking an intermission till after lunch. All right, this says, there are no limits with God. His resources are far beyond your abilities. Never say I can't without saying he can. Never feel you are weak without knowing that he is strong. You will never have to hold back or turn back because of fear, for he is with you. You will never have to be defeated because his victory is yours. You will never have to settle for the ordinary because his life is extraordinary. And Eric Scow is now living in Florida, and he was a great friend for many, many years. I want to share that with all of you. There are no limits. If there's something that you want to do, you don't know how to get there, find somebody who's been there. Find somebody. There are people in Toastmasters, we have people covering every facet of life. Not so much social media, but I now have Margarita who's going to handle our club and get us on the internet or whatever she plans to do. She will call and make sure it's okay with the team here. But see us next time on Toastmasters in the Community. Tony, how'd it feel to be up here again very quickly in about 2 words?
Exhilarating.
It wasn't farming though, was it?
No.
Okay, we have 1 more minute? Oh.
I said 1 word. He used 1 word.
No, we're fine. We're all just about out of time. And if everyone would come up and be in a photo, I'm sure Richard will take some pictures of us. And we'll see you all next time on Toastmasters.